Okay, hello everyone. Salad Blue Sister with my co-host Bahram Yu. Friendly differences. Hey, and today we are going to have a chat with Chill Will, or as he likes to be called sometimes,
No,
Sweet
you don't
Willie.
got that. Nah, that's not for this. This is not for this venue right now. Right?
All right, so this morning, the three of us have been talking back and forth on another platform, and it got a little heated. And I must say, I'm the one that provided some of the heat, whatever. And we were just talking about that thing called, I guess, race. You want to put it like that? Race and white people and black people, and I mean, how would you all put it? I mean,
Well, it's centered around I guess when I started elaborating about some things, and you posted a video. What video was that you posted? There's two.
Well, originally it was because I was listening to a podcast that day for preparation for a show that I'm doing, and some guy on
Charles
there
Barkley.
randomly brought up Charles Barkley,
Gotcha.
and I was like, wow, why hadn't I heard that before? Because throughout my the last 3-4 months being on Solid Blue Show, I've been trying to get that across, and I'm not the best, and that's where I put my hand up. I'm not the best at putting over my views, and that's why I'm glad that Chill Will gets me so well. He often, like, he hears what I'm trying to say, and he'll maybe elaborate and say it better for me. And today, well, the last couple of days, as Solid Blue says, I posted that video where Charles Barkley's talking about, that the elites see black and white and they try to divide us. They're using us, and that's what I've been trying to say. So my intentions, whenever I'm on Solid Blue Show or any show, is to unite blacks and whites. Like, that's my utmost. I said to Solid Blue before we even started Friendly Differences, is that I feel that's my calling. I do these conspiracy shows on Bar.mu, but ultimately I feel I'm best at showing the division that's being caused, and I'm trying to, if I have a gift, that would be what it would be. So I posted that into the group, and this is where I've let myself down, and it's because I'm a cocky, I can be cocky, but my reaction after it, I sent the video in and I said to Chill and Solid Blue, your reaction after watching this video will tell me a lot about your character. And I put a meme of the cat painting its nails or something, as if I'm waiting patiently, and it can be seen as quite I'm challenging
Be
you.
yourself, bro. Be yourself, bro.
Yeah, so I did that, and it kind of, it was about 15, 20 odd, it's back and forth, and to me, it's a
15 to
learning
20.
curve for
I think it
me.
was more than that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a learning curve for me, and I want to get to the root cause of racism and why, and all this stuff. And I've heard, I've never had the chance to debate people on it, and especially meeting you two, who are obviously, you've got experience, and you've felt it all, and that's extra better for me, because I'm genuinely open to it all. But what I also don't do is I have my beliefs, and I'm under no illusion that some of the beliefs I have may be agent provocateur stuff, like that one you're referring to. Will, it was Milo Yiannopoulos, where he reads out the FBI stats, and it doesn't look good on, it doesn't bode well for the whole, blacks are being killed by cops and all that stuff. So what I would ask for you to take over now is what I did say in the audio note before we joined the show tonight, and you weren't able to answer because we were joined Solid Blue Show, is that guy, Milo, I know for a fact he is an agent provocateur. I think that is his self-proclaimed title. That's what he does. He does it well. He winds up feminists. He winds up, he does all that, right? But are you annoyed because it's him that's reading those stats, or are you annoyed at those stats? Because if you're saying that those facts about 90% of homicides are black on black and white on white, and not black on white and white on black, and also like I think it was blacks make up for 50 odd 60 odd percent of the crime rate in America, but yet they only take up 13% of America's population, so that obviously doesn't look good. Are you disagreeing with those statistics from the FBI? Because if you do, then we have like I'm interested to
A
see why.
validity question. We have a
Or
validity question. Like as
sorry,
far
or
as
are you pissed off because it's a white man doing it? Because I would then say, if Barack Obama stood up and read those exact same facts and statistics, would you still be pissed off?
yeah. So if you know anything about me, what you will learn that has nothing to do with it. I'm a fair person in general in reference to hearing anything. Like I don't care who said. Like I said in the show, I really don't care who says it, how you say it. I might even go at you at first, but I'll go sit down and think about like, damn, shit, that was I might be pissed, but he was telling me the truth. You know what I'm saying? He was telling, or I'll reflect like that. So, in reference to that person, I just think that's what black folks would say. That's a part of white privilege. You can stand from that point. So some people would definitely get mad because it is just is it your place to even say that? Because, you're telling me about me. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm here and I'm telling you about you, you would feel some kind of way. Like, damn, how you don't even know me like that? You come up with some statistics and tell me about me, and they're just stats, but they don't tell the whole story, right? So typically, stats are used as an analytical basis, but they're just the premise to when you actually go and set foot in maybe a black neighborhood or a black person's shoes, and so for me to hear those statistics, and that's another tool that they'll use the truth against you, right? They'll take the truth and they'll skew, although it's the truth, they'll skew the narrative, and that's exactly what that does. So if, like he said, I think he said 30% of all, I don't know, it was like robberies are made are done by, or done by black people, but we're 13% of the population, and we're 80% of the
Crime rate.
incarcerated. So that's right there. That's disproportionate. So when you say 50% of all robberies made by were by white people, but then you say, you know what? You look at the prison system, it's 3% white. Um, you know, the population itself is 50%, about 50% white people. 50% of all robberies. See how that trend goes? Is kind of like, all right, cool. So they like 50% of white people. There's more white people than black people just by nature, but it's still proportionate to where you see the actual numbers of the population. But when you get the 30% robberies and you look 13%, 12% black people, that's the 20% gap. So that's like what, and that's what we talk about. It's not that white people aren't oppressed too, or white people don't go through things too. We're talking about the rate in which black folks are hurt by whether it's policies, whether it's the police, and that has to change. Now, sometimes we may not necessarily know exactly what it is, but if you're living in the hood and you're looking at it, like I grew up in the hood, we don't like the police, and of course it's poor. Like but white folks are poor too. You can't tell me that there's more trailer parks than hoods, right? So you're telling me that they don't commit crimes? They don't do drugs. They don't, do enough to go to the jail. Only if it's less than 10% of white folks. There's more white folks. You would think if more white folks are in America, there'd probably be more white folks in prison, but it's not. So you don't think that? So now white folks think, looking at that, black folks are criminals.
And plus, Chill, you hit on a good point that I didn't think of. when you say that, that we're the ones stealing and things like that, what are we stealing? Because a lot of times a white person will go in and steal a pack of gum and they won't report it. A black person steals a pack of gum, it goes down on the record. So that adds to the
Yeah,
stats.
but not even that.
So
It's
I
not
mean,
even that.
okay, but I'm just saying that, it's like you pick and choose, and it's like, okay, well, you all are doing this, so we're gonna write down everything. But they did this. Oh, Susie, go on. Little Billy, not a problem. So
And
and
that's what we privilege would be called privilege.
right,
And
and
that's what
that's
we
and
call
then
privilege.
right, and then so then that's where, like, the same thing with drugs. With white
Yes, that's what I was
people,
gonna get
when they're on oxy and meth and all this other stuff, it's an epidemic. But if for us, we're a bunch of addicts. And the thing about it is, when you look at the prescription drugs that white people are on and that they're overdosing on, we can't even get them because a lot of doctors won't even give them to us because because you all are going to overdose here. Go and take Tylenol. So we're not even getting that stuff. So it's like, when you look at where these stats are coming from, are they even fair? And usually they aren't, because we're being reported on little bitty itty bitty stuff. Oh, he went and he walked out of the store, with a Nestle's Crunch. Oh, you got to write it down, So you got to look at where these stats are coming from, and they're already skewed. So
Well, not only that, but the enforcement of punishment in
mm-hmm,
reference to blacks versus whites.
mm-hmm,
You
the
got a
same
whole kid.
person.
Yeah, I got a whole kid coke, and then I can
Mm-hmm.
speak to this. I can attest to this personally because I unfortunately was in a lot of bull crap during my life. You get an ounce of coke. You take that ounce of coke, you can make a bunch of rocks and make a whole lot of money off of it. But if you grab those 3 rocks, the amount of coke in them rocks is a little cut. But you get a guy that with an actual coke in the suburbs, he gets probation because he's been a good boy all his life, got good grades. But then you got the guy that you got Biden, coincidentally, Biden, who came up with the 1 rock rule, 1 year, 1 rock. 1 year, 1 rock. So I'm covered with 3 rocks. I get 3 years. This guy with an ounce of coke gets, and facially, like it's just, that's just crazy. So well, it's a whole nother deep story I can go to, but that's crazy to me.
What I'll say to that is, and I'm not saying it's every case, but to me, I mean, that sounds crazy, and I'm totally like, if that's happening, I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening, but that
Oh,
sounds to me like
you
the
can
kind of,
Google that. You can Google you can Google
yeah,
as far as the
but that's
disparity of sentencing.
that sounds to me like the stuff. Like, when I'm listening to both of you there, I'm sitting thinking, how do you know that? And I'll tell you how I think you'll know it. It's because you'll know it through the media, because they'll highlight the injustices. Like, they'll purposely tell you that a white man got off with something that a black man didn't to wind you guys up, and
Well,
they'll do it also with us.
but okay, and I have to push back on that, because is not just the media. I know people in law enforcement who have just come out and said, "This is what we do." I mean, cops have quotas, and this is what we do. And some of them even laugh at it. They think that is funny. In order to make a quota, it's easier to stop someone of color than it is a white person, because it's easier to justify that this black person, because they're black, so they must have been doing something wrong. So it's not the media, and this is why I say this has been going on since the beginning of time, since
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman, whatever. It's like you have go back and look at Emmett Till. Emmett Till was killed supposedly because he whistled at a white woman, just for something like that, and it's like, he didn't do it. 40 years later, what's her name? Carol, I can't even remember the woman's name. She's not even worth remembering. She lived to be 80 something. Emmett Till died at the age of 14, and she admits that she lied, but he was black and down south, so it's like, it's not the media. That's why it just bugs me to continuously to hear the media. Does the media do things? Yes. But are they 100? I don't. No, they aren't, because this has been going on for as long as we can remember. We
Well,
have been the ones who, if you want to step on somebody, it's white people here, then you have the Asians, then you have the Latinos, and then the black people is just y'all at the bottom, and that's the way it is.
well,
That is that
then
is
you
the
got the gay community over that. Then you got
and
it's a couple more things over there.
I mean,
But over
seriously, and then
here,
with the gay community, I always chuckle to myself because I'm like, you have, and I'm going to get in trouble from
yeah.
from gay people of color. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but you all are so into these white gay people. Don't they y'all not on the same level. Y'all not. So just like that million women march, whatever. You had a lot of black people, a lot of black women who started in that, and they're like, well, they're not treating us the same way. We not gonna do
The
that.
feminist movement that was started, that colored folks colored women attached themselves. They're not the same plights. We didn't have the same issues, and that was in the
Exactly.
'70s. Like that was, yeah,
We're not even making the
yeah,
same
yeah.
amount of money. So it's like y'all go march on Washington all by yourself, wear your little pussy caps and all that stuff. March on Washington yourself, but we're not going. So it's like I don't need the media to tell me. I don't need the government, whatever. I can look around and see it isn't fair. So
Well, one thing I would say you could go and reference is this reference policy, right? The crime bill. There's a well known video of Bernie Sanders before they passed the crime bill, begging and pleading for them not. And this was during Bill Clinton. They called Bill Clinton the first black president. By the way, that's the coin they got coined that, which it was so, which pisses me off. It's horrible, but he did probably the worst for black people out of any president by creating the crime bill, because that was in which they sent a lot of those guys.
Yeah, because it was the
Three strikes,
yeah,
rule,
three strikes.
three strikes rule, and it separated a lot of families. And but Bernie Sanders is a video of him standing on I don't know, the Senate floor saying this law is exactly what racism is. It will disproportionately affect specifically black people, black fathers, he's a whole 20 minutes bill, and they passed it anyway. And so that right there, because of how the three strike rule was, I say it again.
The three strike rule was basically didn't matter what I mean. Remember, because the one guy, remember that one guy, he had stolen pizza. He stole a slice of pizza or something, and that was his third strike. He went to prison.
And then it also had little like nuances in there. And when I also mentioned the 1 year 1 rock rule, guess where they sell rocks at? They sell it in the hood. That's the only place they sell rocks. And so this is what they get away with, to make it seem like it's a facial, and it's on his face. It's like, oh, it's just a rule. It applies to everybody. Yes, a rule, but where do they sell rocks at? Yeah. They sell rocks most in the hood.
Are they doing
so now
one meth rule? But they're not doing the one meth rule. They're not doing the one.
But I got a whole ounce of coke out here in the suburbs. Exactly. The white guys, they deal with coke. They got more money. They can deal with the expensive drugs, and they get probation. And it's like, what? Like, and that's if I see that happen, probation.
If they get probation, so that's why I said stats and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get this stuff. This is the stuff that I learn about. I've learned about all this, how the government has used like CIA operations to go into Baltimore's and all that, and like this is something that I talked about during the BLM time. I was sharing posts, and someone reached out to me and said, and they had quite racist views, like if they were here right now, you guys would be hating them. And I says, I totally understand where you're coming from. However, the problem is you don't go far enough and say how to fix it. Like, let's take like Baltimore and these places that are, they're shooting up each other every weekend. They're double figures, shooting each other. And I listened to a few podcasts and done a bit of research into that. And what I'll say is, I do believe that these areas are being targeted by they're pushing music into those society cultures, like gun crime, like fuck the popo and all that kind of stuff. And that is like what they do. And that's why I'm all about the media, because it's like if you, first of all, you break down the family unit. So it's a lot of single mothers. So the sons are growing up with no role model. They're attaching themselves to gangs, and then they're shooting each other up because they're in that gang culture, that mentality. And when I've heard any of these like things get mentioned about like the black culture needs to sort itself out before they start saying, like, that is very provocative. And what they don't do is they don't then say why and how and how to solve it. So what I would, oh, we've lost Solid Blue. Someone didn't want us saying those things.
I'm not sure what happened. It wasn't me.
No. So that type of music, that type of culture, plus pulling the funding out of Baltimore. I remember, I think Trump was involved in that. Like he didn't want to give the check to those places because they'd already had enough money, and it's like that. So you're not giving people things to do, so that they're going to go. Like I see it here in the UK, like kids hanging around street corners, getting up to mischief, and then they end up getting lifted by the police. They get criminal records because there's no funding in those cities. There's nothing for these kids to do. There's no parks, and that's where I think a lot of our focus gets distracted, because we're listening to the media talking about George Floyd and Jussie Smollett and Breonna Taylor, which I don't like. I think with those, the ones that are like the main ones, like the George Floyd ones, whenever I've looked into them, I'll find that it's not as, as like you guys are like probably going to say, oh, and listen, I don't for 1 second believe they should have lost their lives, but I'm telling you what, it's not as cut and dry as what you guys will think. There's always another side to that story. Like I think it was the Breonna Taylor one where she was held up, and it was something to do with drugs, and the police tried to bust in, and there was gunfire going off, and she got caught in the crossfire. But they won't tell you that. They'll tell you that she was innocently sleeping in her bed, and the police went up and put a bullet in her head, which is just lies.
But that's
And
not
then,
what they. But that's not what they said. And I mean, and even going back to
Was that Breonna Taylor though? That I think
no,
Breonna
no,
Taylor was the one that
with Breonna Taylor, she was the one that was asleep, and it was her boyfriend.
So who was the one that held himself in
Her
jail?
boyfriend with the whole drug thing, and it was a no knock warrant. So someone's busting into their house with, and they don't, and her boyfriend didn't know if it was the cops, whatever. They're just busting
Right.
in. So he grabs his gun. I would grab mine. So he grabs his gun to shoot, and then the cops shoot.
And then
Yeah.
they didn't announce just is a he said she said. They said they didn't announce themselves. They didn't come. They came in plain clothes as well. So if somebody comes in plain clothes and busts in my house, say they're police, how am I supposed to know they're police?
Well,
Yeah.
exactly, and the whole thing is, the fact that it was a no knock warrant, that right there tells you
That
that
they're
they
not
can
in the
come
wrong
in
world.
however they want. So you can blame media, whatever you want to, and with George Floyd, it doesn't matter if there was another side to the story. The fact still stands is this 17-year-old girl stood there, bless her heart, filming the entire thing, and this man died.
Yeah,
So I don't
See,
that's
care.
bottom
I
line
don't
with that.
see. I don't. You can say that. Oh, that the film was manipulated. You can say whatever. The facts that, but this is where I'm having a problem. Tell George Floyd's family that the media,
quite happily,
because the bottom line is, because, and even you saying that, it shows an insensitivity. And I
yeah,
don't care. I don't care if George Floyd was white. I don't care if George Floyd was
me
black,
neither.
green, blue, whatever. The fact still stands is this man is still dead. I don't care if he was a wife beater. I don't care if they said the same thing about Rodney King when Rodney King got his butt whipped, whatever. The fact still stands is it never should have happened. It
No,
never
yep,
should have happened. So when I say go tell that to their family, whatever, and you're saying,
yeah.
I
Because
mean,
no, because let me just reiterate. It's like this is what they do. They've like, you try to tell me that he was the only black man that died that day, but
No, no, he wasn't. No,
so
no,
so
he
so, so you tell me why they highlighted his story, because on that same day a white man died the exact same way. On that same day they
don't.
were
Okay,
knelt on.
okay. So let me ask this then: how come people like Fox News, who is so far right, especially someone like Tucker Carlson, who is so far right he can come up your butt, whatever. So how come people like Fox News, who relish in things like that, how come he wasn't out there, or Fox News is out there going, "Hey, this white man over here was killed the exact same way," and how come they didn't put split screen with George Floyd and this other man
because
side by side?
you don't understand the way the system works. Like, media is not controlled by, no, government is not controlled by media. Media is controlled by the government, and even bigger than that. It's like, when you realize that the media can't tell stories, that they're not allowed. They can't just break out and tell stories like the Epstein Island stuff. I'm sure that
I
was
don't
a
think that's in our country though. I think it's the opposite way around. Media definitely controls government, unequivocally, without a doubt.
no, no,
But
no,
okay,
not at all.
okay, but at the same time though, whether or not another white man died the exact same way, the bottom line is a police officer still murdered someone who was
But
down, who
can I
was
just say,
who was down. Either way, that person died.
yeah, but listen, see that technique of kneeling down on someone's neck? It is a trained technique. The police are trained to do that. And the fact that he died is a tragedy, should never have happened.
And they also said that in that same technique, whatever, that where his knee was and whatever, that after the person is already down and they're no longer struggling, and he had not been struggling. I mean, Chauvin kept his knee down, and they restrained him for like an additional 5 minutes. He had
Yeah.
already stopped. So
Mhm.
okay, so I understand about the whole technique and stuff. Okay, but he is down. He's not moving. Get the fuck off of him.
And not four. I don't know about four people being on your back and on
Yeah, I
for that
mean
long.
seriously. I
He
mean
was kind of
seriously.
jabbing.
I
Like,
don't
that
care
was a little
how
different.
big
That
he
was a little bit
is.
different. But I do get what
What's
you're
that?
saying. He was taught
What's that
that.
story, Will?
I, you saying he was taught that, which is understandable. But some is just common sense. If a man saying he can't breathe, I'm pretty sure there's
Yeah.
training against that too. So
Listen. I to watch that footage is, it's horrible to watch, and it's and even you're saying about the girl that's videoing it. There was multiple people there. Why didn't they go over and grab the police officer? Like, I
Okay,
couldn't sit
okay,
back.
okay. Ian or Bob, you have to remember one thing that you have to remember. It was mostly African Americans dealing with.
yeah,
Hold on, dealing with cops who more than likely can pull out a gun, and even
yeah.
the white EMT lady who was off duty, whatever, and she was saying, "I am a." An EMT. I'm an EMT. You guys, you have to get off of him. He isn't breathing. You need to turn him on his side. They were telling her to shut the F up. So you
How
can say, why didn't they? Why did? And they're all yelling. They're all yelling at them. Get off of him. He can't breathe. He isn't moving. He isn't moving. So is it up to them, or is it up to law enforcement who is committing this act? And they see again, he's not moving. And not only
listen
was he
if
not moving, is he has handcuffs on.
Listen, if there's a guy lying in the streets with a cop on his neck, it doesn't matter what skin color you are or what job title you have. You push the cop off him and say, leave him out. Like, you don't sit back and watch and record.
I
And I
know. I
tell you
get
what,
that. I get that
you
completely. But they didn't
certainly
know he
don't
was
record it.
dying
That's
though.
for sure. You
They didn't.
certainly
They
don't record it.
probably didn't know he was dying though. And they probably now. I probably would have threw something at him or something like that. But you got to think about it. It's not. It's not that cut and dry. I mean, that takes a brave soul to come over there. They already you feel like they're brutalizing the man. What's to say that they're gonna pull out? They're gonna shoot me if I approach them. And they would. And then they like stand back. The one cop was like stand back, stand back.
Mhm.
Remember, it was just not those four. It was one cop. It was kind of the one cop was just kind of policing everything. Hey, you get back. Hey, you get back. And if you attack the police, they're gonna shoot your ass. Who wants to get shot?
Hello, hello. No, but before they shoot you, they'll say, taser, so they'll at least have a reason.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a mistake. I meant to bring my taser.
And you don't necessarily know he's dying at that point if you're a person. You just know he can't breathe. He's struggling. You don't know when he's going to be dead.
But again, the fact is that he was on the ground, and that's the thing that got me. It wasn't even so much.
Yeah.
Well, it was the fact that he wasn't breathing, but the thing that got me was the fact that this man was laying prone on the ground.
You was on his neck with your knee, your whole body weight in your knee.
And you are not supposed to put, and they have even said
that was, you don't train that. You don't train that.
They even came in and said you do not do that. They showed the manual, everything. You're not supposed to put your knee on someone's neck like that. But the fact that he remained there. He remained there. And so that's why I say you tell that to George Floyd's family in the flip way. They go, oh, sure, whatever. That's just messed up. Because if you were to tell me,
it's messed up to defend a man that, I mean, I call him a man, but he held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. He's been in jail.
See, this is the thing that I don't like. They did the same thing with Rodney King. Oh, he was a drug addict. He was that. I don't care. Yes, he did do that. Did he do stuff that was messed up? Absolutely. Does that mean he had to be murdered?
No, I've already said that. Nobody.
Okay, so then why even bring that up?
That's apples and oranges. I feel like it's apples and oranges. You're right.
So
because you were sitting here in a pandemic, people being told you can't go to your own loved one's funeral, yet they're having the biggest funeral ever for a man that has been in jail 5 times. He'd held guns to pregnant woman's stomach. He was on some sort of drug that day that probably added to the fact that he, that technique ended his life. And then at the same time, he's walking into a shop with counterfeit money, and we're all crying.
Let me ask you a question. Was it ever proven that was? Anybody ever know whatever happened to that $20 bill? Was it ever proven that it was counterfeit? Do we even know what happened to that $20 bill? And the fact that it was a $20 bill, and one thing that the guy said, if you listen to the entire testimony with that young man who originally said something about the $20, when he said, I wish I had not even said anything. I wish that I had just taken the money out of my own pocket, whatever. And then they were even saying if the money was counterfeit, George Floyd was in that store like for at least another 15 minutes at the counter, standing at the counter, laughing and joking with people before he left the store. So if I'm going to pass a counterfeit bill, I'm going to pass it, and I'm getting out of there. I'm getting in my car and I am gone. I'm not going to stand there laughing, joking, whatever. But did they ever prove that it was actually, fake, whatever? Because all they said was they assumed that it was. They never said it was. They said they assumed that it was. And I have never heard anything else about that $20 bill. Nothing.
You see that's what that whole George Floyd thing is exactly. This last 20 minutes we've just talked about that's what that was designed to do. Whether that was a real event or not, that event was shown worldwide to cause division between whites and blacks, because the proof in the pudding is, I just told you, a white man died the exact same way that exact day with that technique, and you don't even know about it.
And I said why. So what I would like to know is, if this happened, whatever, then is it my fault? Whatever. I mean,
no, but
and when I say my fault, but it's like, why, for all the things that are happening that same day. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. Okay, I'm just saying that the fact that George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Joe Smith, whomever, the fact that the world did find out about it, it was still a heinous act. It was still something that should not have happened, no matter if the man was a saint or if he was a sinner. What happened to him should not have happened.
What about then does that not take the racist card out of that event? Because then you find out that a white man died the same way. Does that mean that cop was racist towards whites as well, or does it, how do you feel about that?
I would say that I look first and foremost that if it was another Chauvin is just a pig, an asshole, and he deserved what he got, and he should have gotten longer. And maybe he won't make the 22 years and something, no, whatever. But I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
and I'll respond to that as well. But the if we're going to people's characters, that policeman had several complaints
mhm,
towards him, like
mhm.
several. As far as
And it
how he
was
treated
with
people, how
everybody,
bad
black,
he
white,
was.
brown. It was
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. So I would never tell you that was a racist act. It was just a brutal act, like
Hmm.
it's just like a period. I don't care if it was black. It's just brutal. I don't necessarily even think it was racist. Maybe he did know him. Maybe he was a prick. They said they worked together at one point and whatever. Yeah, maybe. So that could have been a point to where I wanted to inflict harm on you because I've been waiting. That's just whatever. But the fact is, he died, and they shouldn't have. But to speak to your issue about one man being killed by a white person being killed by an officer, which is understandable. They didn't highlight it in the news. They didn't. They didn't. So that's the hot spots for the media. The media is going to do the hot spots. That's how they manipulate us. You're right. You are absolutely right. They're putting black folks against white folks, but at the same time, it's our job if there's something is happening, which is once again the truth between police and the inner city. If we bring that to the forefront, that's our job to bring it to the forefront. Now,
But don't forget
as, as
also
black
that
folks,
one reason why George Floyd was also put in the news was because right after that, I can't remember the young lady's name. She went and she posted that entire video on to
that's what I'm
you.
saying. So that's why, right? It's our job to bring to the forefront. Who posted that white dude getting? Who made it an issue? You know what I'm saying? So wherever it gets picked up is how it gets picked up. That doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't pay attention to it. We're not going to pay attention to every. I mean, if something catches, it catches. We can't control that, but we can bring a sort of you know hey, this is happening type deal to something that's been a problem in the black community for a long time. We can use that. It is a catalyst. Of course it is. Because now we're finally paying attention to something that's been happening, and we've been shouting at the top of our lungs for years.
Mhm.
And now, whether right or wrong, we can use this now. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, we definitely can use this, and that's what basically is happening. And that's as
Mhm.
far as and like I said, if it happens over there, it's fine. But this still is disproportionately happening here. You know what I mean? We know it happens everywhere, but that doesn't
Mhm.
take away from the fact that it's disproportionately happening here. Not only deaths, we're talking about wrongly convicted. Like you can Google that, man. You will see so much about that. Disproportionately is ridiculous, and they're still letting out black guys
Yeah,
today.
yeah, but see, when you're saying disproportionately, like, see, a lot of these crimes. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, when you look into a
Mhm,
crime or like a black person being shot by a policeman, right?
mhm.
What you'll find and what I've found in my experience, and unless you guys have examples, and I mean, I'm sure we don't
I'm
have
not
enough
going to
time
just say shot. I'm talking about crimes, not just shot. I'm talking about when we don't even have to do nothing but look at the prison system and see that it's 85, 90% black folks. So those are just
yeah.
crimes, just
And,
in
and
general.
a
But
lot of them aren't, and a lot of
it
them
ain't
are
got to
not
be
even
life or death.
crimes. A
It
lot
ain't
of
got to
those
be life or
people are
death,
just
right?
innocent,
It
you
ain't got
know.
to be life or death.
So
And we're not
Yeah,
talking
but
about just
what
when
I'm
the
saying
police.
is, don't you think it's maybe not that it was because of the color of their skin that they were like? I'll use the shot, right? I've the one last year, was it where young, was he 17? He was in his car. He'd Snapchatted him with a gun on his story, and then the police pulled him over for a random check, and
Mhm.
he reach for his gun or something like that, like.
I
And
remember.
and what I'm saying is, to me, a lot of these crimes is not like the media will pose them as a racial crime, that the blacks are being unfairly
Yeah.
treated
Oh
by
yeah.
police
Yeah. Yeah.
officers.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is, I wouldn't say, when you
Mhm.
look into them, it wasn't because of their skin color, it's because they were breaking the law. Like, if you don't play silly games, you won't get shot. That's the kind of motto I've if you don't have a gun in your hand, and I've seen plenty of videos where a policeman, there's a one that I've got on my phone, where guy gets pulled over, and he's getting held behind the car with his hands behind his back, and something happens, and they go to tase him. So they tase him, he falls to the ground, but just springs straight back up, runs round to the front of his car, gets his gun and shoots the two policemen. And that's why I don't think tasers are enough. And you know, some of these crimes and things that get put out in the media, it's like it's not because they were black, it's just because they were dumb and they were playing, they were breaking the law. You know, and if it was a white person,
Yeah, but psychologically, there's a lot of things that happened in that with that though. You see, when you see a bunch of videos where they can de-escalate when somebody's not black, and it's just it definitely is a what's the word a stigma towards black folks in America, right? To where they're more dangerous. That same stigma that you may talk about, like, yeah, they're trying to create for the white. We've had that. We've had that for forever. So when a white cop sees innately, they did a little. Remember, who did that study as far as what was the baby doll? You remember the baby doll study?
That was she was from the UK. I did a show on her.
Yeah. So when they
Wait, you
say
talking
what's
about
the good baby, what's the bad baby, they show a
right?
black baby, what's the good baby, what the black baby is, and they put a white baby doll and a black baby doll in front of them, and they say what's the good baby, what the black, and they all point. Even the black
yeah. So,
folks
so
turn.
media again.
So
That's what I
right,
mean.
exactly. So therefore, do you think it's not going to go into that symptom? Although they not made the cause or ultimate cause, the elite is still a symptom of the elites manipulating us, which is the police looking at black folks like they're criminals.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now
Totally.
I'm more on edge. I'm more likely to shoot your ass opposed to seeing you like my drunk uncle that was just talking shit. So
Yeah.
that's a big difference.
I'm totally on board with that. That's exactly what I'm all about. You know, I
Yeah.
don't deny that stuff. That's definitely, that's evident.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bob, have you heard of Jane Elliott? She's
No.
from from the UK. Okay, she did a blue eye brown eye, and she's been on Oprah. She was on Oprah years and years ago. She did a really good uh,
School study. It was in school, like a junior high, maybe.
well, she did one in junior high, but the one I'm referring to is the one that she did in the UK, and this was back in 2009. And the thing that got me about it, in fact, one of my very first YouTube shows when I was first podcasting, I did a show on her, and it was so interesting because as a white woman, I mean, she literally just tears white people to pieces with this blue eye, brown eye thing. If you look at the YouTube video that she did, was she people were coming to do this thing, and then she's very mean and very nasty, and she's like this on purpose. She says, okay, I want all the blue-eyed people to go stand here. All the blue-eyed people went to stand there. All the brown-eyed people go and stand here. So all the brown-eyed people were standing there, and in the brown-eyed people there were people of color, there were different races and stuff, and there were white people who had brown eyes. So she says, okay, all the brown-eyed people, you go and you have coffee. You have coffee and tea and all this other stuff, and there's donuts, whatever. And the blue-eyed people are like, well, what about us? She's like, you all are getting nothing. Just stand there and shut up. And she kept, during the entire time, she was treating the brown-eyed people like just so nice and everything, and the blue-eyed people she treated like crap. So when they came together, she was asking the blue-eyed people, well, what do you think? And she says, they're like, well, it's not fair. Why are you treating us like this? And why are you treating like this? And then, so then she came out and said, because I want you to know how people of color feel. I want you to know what it's like. And she says, this is nothing. She said, this is just one day of you guys not getting whatever you want, but these brown-eyed people are. And the blue-eyed people got really upset. So there was this one teacher who, what she said to me was just amazing to me. They were in a little group talking, and she goes, she was a teacher, and she said that this is the word she used, and I don't know if it's a UK term or whatever, but I was like, wow, this is 2009. She says that there was a half caste student of hers on the playground who fell, and the little girl's crying. She hurt her knee. And when she went to help her, she was shocked that up under the scrape, it was red. She says, I don't know. I thought that maybe it would be brown. I was shocked that it was red. And I'm saying to myself, you've got to be kidding me. You are seriously saying to myself, first you call the little girl half caste, which will automatically makes her less than. And then you're going to say that you're shocked that her knee scrape was not bleeding red, but it was, I mean, that you were shocked that it was bleeding red, that you thought it was something else. And I'm saying to myself, are you that stupid? Are you that dumb? Are you that ignorant? I mean,
Some
seriously.
places, yes, though, like they have no, and that's what I think for black
And
folks,
that's
though,
where I
we
say,
need to
and this,
recognize
right.
that
And this is what
we
I'm
need to
saying.
recognize when sometimes it may be that because I just didn't even know that was like hey, or the Orientals. I didn't even know it was offensive to Asian people to call them Oriental. They'll say it's a rug. So things like that definitely happen. Like so, her telling that story, she could have been in a complete like just
But okay, but you're going to tell
horrible
me that.
mindset.
Okay, well, you're going to tell me that the UK, and she is a teacher. So you're going to tell me that you're a teacher and you don't have different races and what have you, or just walking down the street, you don't see white people, black people, Indians, or Asians,
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, you're gonna. I mean, are you? I mean, we're not talking the 1950s or 40s where you're maybe more,
Mhm.
whatever. But this is 2009. So when the experiment ended, Jane Elliott, she just said, "You all just need to see how people of color feel." So then it made me go back and look at one that she did in a high school here in the U.S. And she had these kids running out in like tears. She had these white kids running out in tears, because she's like, "This is how they feel." And this is what it is. Now some people may say, well, that wasn't fair, you shouldn't have done that, whatever. But it was an experiment where, you know for once it was like, this was an experiment where you did kind of separate the blue-eyed people from the brown-eyed people. And there were, like I said, white people who were in the brown-eyed group, whatever. But go and pull it up, and it's very interesting. And Jane Elliott gets very mean and very nasty, and I think, and again, she's doing that for a reason. But watch it, so
I can't say I agree with that form of experiment. I would say that's quite harming to children, especially because it's on children.
okay. But what about adults?
I mean, even like my stance on like promoting like basically white guilt. They're trying to press white guilt onto
Okay,
people. Like,
but then again, but this is what I'm saying. By now, it comes back to where the shoe is on the other foot. So now it's like, it's been like, you all are this, you all are that,
yeah,
you all
but
are bad, black is bad. So now it's like people are starting to question and starting to push back. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no.
no, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's basically two wrongs don't make a right. Like because you guys have been oppressed, you can't then oppress white people to make up for the
No,
oppression.
I'm not, and I'm not trying to oppress you at all. But but what is it going to take? I mean, for her experiment, I mean, it was an experiment. No one is oppressing anyone. I'm not
No, but
trying to
that can
say, okay, but at the same time, though, this is what we go through. The fact that our children go to school every single day, and there's always going to be that one teacher, or that one principal, or that one coach that is going to say something that is mean and nasty to our children. I mean, when my son was in fourth grade, during, I'm laughing, but every time I think about it, it just pisses me off. When my son was in fourth grade, he was one of two African American kids in his class. During Black History Month, the teacher thought it was okay that to teach about slavery, that they were going to do some mock stuff. The two little black kids in the class, which was my son and one other little boy, they were the slaves. Now, it's okay, like I said, it's okay for our children to go through it, but for your
no,
kids, whatever,
it's
or
not
whatever,
okay.
it's like, oh,
It's,
it's white guilt, it's white guilt. No, it isn't.
no, it's not okay. I don't like that your son was. No, I see that. That's where I stand. I'm like, you keep your morals, you keep your what's the word? Your you stay true to your word. So I don't flop and flimsy with my belief system. I'm like true to what I say, and I think what they did to your son there was horrible. And I'd also disagree with promoting white guilt onto children and even white people who, like, I've never been racist, so why should I, like basically a better way of putting it is, do you know how they're like bending the knee before football games and sports games? I would, if I was a football player on the big stage, I would never bend the knee, and because I've never owned a slave, I would bend a knee for no man
But
or
it
no
wasn't.
woman.
But okay. But even with bending the knee, I totally get it. And I even say now, this is why we kneel, because you look at the Star Spangled Banner, or you look at We the People, and you look at the flag. You're not talking about us. When all this stuff was written and stuff, you weren't talking about us. And when Colin Kaepernick, I always say his name and wrong. Um, I don't think black people had his back like they should have. And a lot of things that he did. I 100%. You want to kneel, you go ahead and kneel. But the same people who are saying, "Oh, you're disrespecting the flag," are the same people who have the flag on the back of their pickup trucks, who are wearing them, as a swimsuit, who are wearing it as a bandana, or as a picnic thing, and that is disrespecting the flag. So while you're telling me that I'm taking a knee, you're sitting up here, wearing it as a swimsuit and putting it on the back of your truck or whatever. I mean, that is disrespectful. I mean, that's 100% disrespectful. Look at the people who have burned the flag. Wasn't us. you know?
And I mean, one thing you said that was the most important, that the flag doesn't represent the same thing for the same.
No, it doesn't. And growing up, we had on the 4th, yeah, we had fireworks. But after a while, my parents were like, "Why are we celebrating the 4th?" Because on the 4th, we weren't free. We were still out there picking cotton. And even now, that Biden did this throw us a bone thing for Juneteenth. It's a federal holiday, which will affect most white people, but most black people who it should help are minimum wage, and they'll be at work at Target or Walmart or some of these other places selling Juneteenth.
Well, the government
Juneteenth
sector is mostly black, I can say. So
So,
it does affect them, and they'll be off. I mean, as
well,
far as like,
no. I put it like this: in terms of postal workers, maybe, but in terms of federal workers overall
no,
around the U.S.,
yeah,
it is mostly it is mostly white people. But what it should have been was Juneteenth. If you're going to make it a holiday, make it a national thing. And he only
is
did that.
it?
Biden only threw us that freaking bone because he didn't want to deal with the whole voting rights.
No, he want to get no, he want to get reelected. Period. Or I mean,
Well, well,
you always take stuff like that as a
not a
with
good,
a grain of
he's not
salt.
doing a good job, but he's better than the other guy.
But
But
one thing I do want to address
I
too,
mean,
like
I don't know. I mean,
I,
there's just so much to it. I mean, there's just so many components to just. I want everybody. I want black people to get along. I want white people to get along. There's just so many other things to it, and it's just not that easy to say. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
I,
I
I
agree.
do know what I want to just one other thing when like because I know it's for you by sense to be. I do understand a lot, whether we agree or not. I do understand exactly where you're coming from, and I do think it's an earnest place. But overall, like even like well, say for instance with the George Floyd stuff, whether he's a like you said a saint or a sinner, I mean our lives in general, it's a marathon. So if you might have been a you might have sold drugs, been a robber, I've done a lot of those silly things, and so should I be not if I did something heroic, not or just die at a as a symbol of oppression, should I not be celebrated? I mean, do we celebrate a man's faults? I mean, well, should we just because he has fault, should we not celebrate? Martin Luther King probably cheated on his wife several times. You can find the greatest man that has some of the hugest faults. So to attack a man's character when such a tragedy, or you can say what goes around comes around, yeah, cool, but overall, to assemble to attack a man under that circumstance seems kind of cold. That's what I think. Charlie,
No,
something.
I think it's. I have to clear my name on that because I've never actually, this is the first time I've actually ever discussed the George Floyd thing with
Okay.
people. Because, for people watching this and they've maybe listened to my Baramu podcast, I've never actually talked about it on there either. But you'll all know what I think of that whole thing, and I'm not going to talk about that here. So I'm maybe blinded by that stuff.
As far as what it comes off as, I'm not saying that I just want to make sure you understanding me. I'm not.
No, because I often say, like, listen, nobody deserves to lose their life early. Nobody should be murdered and all that kind of stuff. But what I do take exemption with is that we use him as a martyr, like the left or
Not a
the
martyr for
Democrats.
me. He's not a martyr to me.
Well, it seemed that way for a lot of people.
But even if he is, though, so I feel like you're not gonna. I mean, Malcolm X was horrible at one point. Some people don't like. Like I said, Martin Luther King cheated on his wife. Huey P. did drugs. Like for our heroes, a lot of them they're gonna have some faults, right?
But not only that, Chill, it's like, okay, so we're talking about George Floyd now, and it's like, okay, where is he going to be 100 years from now? Because when you look at the people who we do celebrate, like Christopher Columbus, okay, so George Floyd held a gun to a pregnant woman. Okay, you look at Christopher Columbus, who was a child molester. He trafficked children. He literally took out if you read his own diary, you look at the Taino tribe, who had almost 1 million people. When Christopher Columbus and his soldiers or whomever came, after they left, there were just a couple of thousand. They used to take babies. This is in his diary. They used to take babies. Those soldiers used to take babies from their parents, and they used to have this brick wall. Who can throw the baby the furthest, and who can crack the skull the biggest? This is what Christopher Columbus did. So while we're talking about George Floyd,
You got
his
National Holiday.
and doing drugs and stuff, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, who raped a girl when she was 14 years old and had babies by her, and then even on his deathbed, he freed her children, but still didn't free her. Just look at all these people who we have statues to, whatever, that we're saying, oh, there were these great people. And we're going to talk about George Floyd or Rodney King or someone else who had drugs or they held a gun. So 100 years from now, what are we going to think about these people?
So we're speaking to the hypocrisy. You're speaking to the hypocrisy of it all.
Right.
Well,
right.
what about here's a hypothetical. What if Donald Trump went out tonight and you woke up in the morning and found out that he was shot? Do you think people would be celebrating?
Yes. Just like, wait, hold on. Just like I think that if Biden or Obama were shot, do I think people would be yay, woo, yoo-hoo? Yep.
So then you understand where people like me come from when you're looking at a guy like George Floyd and not shedding any tears.
Okay, fine. But I'm saying, but don't be a hypocrite that while you're going to say something about him, make sure you talk about the other person who is just as bad.
Oh yeah.
I think in reference to the cause or what happened, I think it's apples and oranges. I don't have to martyr. Like I think that's not the fact that right there is also a media deflection. That's a tactic they use to Fox News or what CNN. They'll attack your character so you can be less of a importance. You know what I'm saying? So that's a one-on-one trick by the media or the elitists. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the last thing they want to do is create a martyr or like a, all like outside of what they can control. If it's a guy, if an MLK or God
But they
forbid,
did the
just
same
whoever that
thing
is.
with Martin Luther King, and they're still trying to do it. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. They don't want
yes,
that, so
he had
they'll
affairs and
attack that
everything, but
kind of
they're like,
shit,
oh, he was this
right?
horrible person. But it's not, it all depends on how far are you going to allow it. But again, I say it's the hypocrisy of it all. While you're so busy talking about this person, don't forget about this person over
Yeah.
here. That they did this. So you want to bring up somebody on the left, make sure you bring up somebody on
Yeah.
the right, because I guarantee you that
Mhm.
there's someone on the right, just
Yeah.
as somebody on the left. There's somebody on the left, just like you got somebody that's on the right. So
But at the end of the
See,
day, there's an issue at hand, and there's an issue. You spoke to solutions. That if that brings that as an issue for us to be part of a solution finally, after years of like crying, fighting, being whatever you want to call it, victim, screaming at the top of your lungs, hey, this, trying to pull ourselves up. If once now, it's the point is with the BLM, we're at the forefront from a lot, like after like 20 years. It's, you got the the LGBTQ had their turn. They got whatever else had their turn. And we've been at the bottom the whole time. Like, hey, and now we got. So I'm not mad at it, even if they are taking advantage of it. I still think it's hey,
but you also have to
whatever
remember,
black folks can get out of this, let them get out of it because they just it's way overdue. Um,
but you also have to remember at the turn of the century, you had a lot of ex slaves who who built themselves up, worked
oh,
hard, whatever.
Reconstruction. You mean you reference the
And
Reconstruction period?
yes,
That's what it's
and
called, Reconstruction.
and because of that, you know, there were so many black Wall Streets. There were so many.
Mm-hmm.
And when you had money there, $1 would circulate through the entire neighborhood 38 times
Mm-hmm.
before it left. We had artwork. I mean, movie theaters, all this stuff. We had beautiful homes. We had many
Doctors,
mansions.
lawyers,
We had our
yeah.
own banks. We had our own schools. I mean, we were educated. But you know what? The people across the tracks, they were looking and saying, why those, yeah, yes, I am going to say it because this is what they said. Why those niggas got all of that? So what are we going to do? We're going to go over there. We're going to steal from them. We're going to kill them. Then we're going to bomb the entire place. Then we're going to come back in. We're going to take their land.
Well,
That
now what we're
happened,
going to do is we're going to create Jim Crow laws.
for a like 50-year
What
span.
we're
So now
going to do
we're
is create Jim Crow.
right.
That's
So
what they
now
did.
we're at this spot now that we have just been unable to recover. And it's like, well, oh, you all are complaining. Oh, well, if you
The
all would just do
victims,
this,
yeah.
we did that. We had this.
Yeah,
We, I
and
mean, and,
historically, it takes generations to build wealth,
you know,
and
Mhm.
to come up
and when
with
I
a
say that
psychological,
we had
it's
artwork,
psychological.
we had $1 million of artwork. I mean, we had this stuff, and it was
Mhm.
gone.
We're not even 100 years out of the Jim Crow, so
No,
it's
we
the
aren't.
black folk.
We aren't.
I'm not familiar with the Jim Crow stuff. I hear about it a lot, but
Oh
I've never
yeah,
looked into it.
yeah. Jim Crow were a set of laws that were in place, separate but equal, which is oxymoron. Um, Put in place like that's where you get the black water fountains and the white water fountains. Black folks can take the bus, but they get us in the back, and the white folks in the front. Um, it just you can't come into this diner down here because it's the white folks diner. You got the black folks diner down the street.
And they
Um,
had to sit in heaven.
So
You
he
know
tried
that
to
saying?
segregate to save peace.
to say, yeah, well, since they make up, but yeah, we're just used to our cultures and our ways. We don't want to stir up the pot. Well, let's make it separate but equal. But it wasn't really equal
It wasn't.
conditions, equal nothing. So it's schooling was big. The schools too. Especially when they try to desegregate, which to some people, a lot of black folks say desegregation was the worst thing that happened to black folks, and to some they have a lot of point because that's when you did have these communities where black folks did everything. They were self sufficient. We took care of ourselves. Farmed. Doctor, lawyer, each other, and we had because we had to. Now we mix up everything, and they were able to take. That was a tactic to to attack the black folks. That was another tactic that they figured. And these are calculated. So when you say conspiracy theories, I don't. These are actually things that they sat in a room and said, "How do we keep the oppressed oppressed?" because if
Yeah.
they do, it's going to be a problem.
But you know what, Chill? I mean, growing up, I grew up I had mother, father, parents were until my father passed. I told the story before, whatever. But my mom always said when we went to school, because we went to school mostly with white people, and whenever we brought home bad grades, whenever I brought home bad grades, my sister didn't. I brought home bad grades, but my mother would always say, and she would get so mad at me. As long as there is one white person in that classroom, you will learn something because that teacher will be teaching that white kid. So you better sit there and you better listen. And that was the rule,
See,
and you may say that
even
that's
if that
wrong
is the
because
case, even if that is the case, I'm not saying it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you say that to your like? That's horrible.
no,
That's like
That's good. That's awesome that you say that because that's
no.
exactly what has to happen. There's a hard truth that has to be learned and so when y'all was
no,
talking about the Jane,
because what I'm saying, like maybe that's not a good example, but I don't like the thought of black parents teaching their kids that
But
you
we
must
have to
fight.
have the talk. But at the same time, we give our children the talk. You aren't giving your children the talk. I had a conversation with someone when I said when we give our children the talk, we're telling them how to survive. You
right,
all may say, okay, well, you all
it's a real
okay now.
thing.
If this is going to happen, well then, okay, so you give the police officer your license, whatever, and you say yes or no, sir, and everything will be fine. For us, it's like, do not move. Put your hands here. Do this. Do this.
Even not with the police, just with the
Have your
school though.
driver's. I mean, even now, my driver's license is in my phone because it's like literally, if I ever get stopped by the police, I will take it out, put it on the dashboard where the officer can see it. I am not moving. We
Right?
teach our children how
That's
to
a
survive
perfect example,
Mhm.
right? Why are you like that?
because we have to be.
Why though? Why?
Because society has made us this way.
Not society.
I don't want to hear about the media because the media
It
was not
is.
there. But okay, but you know what? But see,
Now I can agree with Bob on this one because I
Yeah.
don't have no problems with no police.
Because
When
you're
they pull me over, I act accordingly.
because you're hearing about the Jussie Smollett's or like the Breonna, like those types
okay,
where,
all right. Well then let me ask this:
and
when
then
Emmett Till's mother allowed him to go down south, one thing that she told him was she said, "Make sure you say yes, sir, no, sir. The South is not like the North. It's not like that." So when he's running around with his cousins, whatever, and they're saying, "Emmett, don't say that," whatever, and his uncle and aunt are saying, "Emmett, you cannot do that here. You have to." They're teaching him how to survive that summer. They were trying to teach him, you cannot do that. You're not up north anymore. You are here. Do you see but you don't see white kids or families saying, you better not do that. You better not, because you know why?
why?
If a white kid whistled at a white woman, would that kid have been dragged out of his home and been beaten? And I mean, I'm just asking, would that have
No,
happened to him?
what I'm saying is, I mean, I'm not familiar with that story, but I mean, this is going to sound terrible of me to say this, but I can guarantee I'll look into that story, and it won't just be because he whistled. There'll be something else.
Oh no! That's what is it because he whistled. You can go ahead. Anything that I tell you that you can go look, because like I said, a lot of stuff that you're going through right now, especially with conspiracy, like we born like that. We witnessed it. We know, like especially American. It's you beat the dead horse over here, brother. Because you're right.
And that's where I say
but you got to look it up. That's the ridiculousness of it. Go ahead and look that story up. That little boy, even if so, regardless, it's a little boy. So it's nothing to be justifiable.
Are there places on this planet that white people are not safe?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Not many places in America, though.
Yes.
You
Yes.
just
America
what was his name?
was
Say the white little girl from the basement here in Cleveland. with the bucket, even like you live, white little girl come out, she gonna be protected anywhere, because black folks don't take no. We don't hate. And like you can't come to my barbecue and they gonna love you like a brother. Shit, you come to my barbecue, they gonna take you in. You know what I'm saying? But we just don't. When you don't feel the opposite, that's a problem. So I'm just saying, yeah, of course, it's places you can't go, but it's definitely way more places where I can't go
and
in
and and
America
and,
than opposed to it.
and Bob, I would suggest that you see, when it comes to
But you can
America,
study all of this. You can. It's out there.
there's all the stories, that are out there, and like I said, when I found out why my father refused to go down south, woof, mm,
I know, I know it's
it's not
You
terrible. I mean,
something.
had to look
It was
into
not
it.
something, more to it, whatever. But I implore you. I think it's on Netflix now, but either look it up and read it, or The Rape of Reese Taylor. This was back
I
in the
know, but
40s.
listen, with
So,
all due
You know,
respect,
so
I'll probably watch it. But
you
what I'm
know,
saying is, these shows that you're saying go watch it, and
mhm.
white people are watching, it's causing a white guilt for something that they have never
okay,
done.
okay. Well then don't watch it. But it is part of history. It is part of someone's family history. I can look back. I'm not trying to cause white guilt by telling you that I had a great uncle. I had two great uncles in my family that were lynched. That's not me telling you white guilt. This is something
Yeah,
that
I don't
happened.
want you to feel. Yeah, I
This is
don't.
this
Yeah,
is
that's
something
another
that
thing. I
happened
don't
in
want you to
my
feel
family.
guilt. Guilt.
I'm
I
not
wouldn't want you
asking
to feel guilt.
you to feel guilt. I'm just saying that this happened, and the only reason why I say go and watch it, I'm not trying for you to be white guilt, because you said for Emmett Till, I bet that there was something else. There wasn't. He whistled at a white woman at a time where white people were putting themselves
But then she
higher.
lie. Did she lie or something like that, or something happened
She
about something?
lied for her husband and her husband and his two friends. And she was interviewed when she was like 80 something, and she admitted that she lied. But again, she got to live into her 80s, but Emmett Till died. And not only did they beat and if you see the photos, you have to see the photos of him, because when they found his body that was weighed down with a industrial fan he had been in the water for 2 weeks, and when they shipped his body back to his mother refused to have a closed casket. She wanted an open casket. She wanted the world to see what they did to her baby, her only son. And
But I understand what you're saying. But fast forward to today, ain't nothing that necessarily is going on right now. It did, so that affects us though. So when we say that, it's not to cause guilt at all.
no,
It's to cause
hold
guilt
on, but
as
you have Ronald Green.
well. No, no, no. No. I'm not even.
And
I
and
didn't go to college.
you had Michael, what's his face, that was lynched in Michigan. It is still going on. It
Well,
may
no,
not
no, no,
be
no. What
going
I'm saying
on
is that the fact is that it happened. If I'm telling you that, it's just to take accounts of over historically why black folks feel the way they feel,
right,
and you could also recite the things that are today. I just didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but my point is, it's a thing, and why is a thing, and it's not necessarily saying, hey, you know what, you should feel guilty, opposed to saying, hey, you know what, we want you to aware that my feelings and the way I think about this situation, it may be valid. Now you could say, you know what, black folks still can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You can go work, you can go do this, and you're absolutely right. So it's a certain amount of governing that we need to be better at our own communities.
true.
I mean,
You're absolutely
without a
right.
doubt.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
it's not saying that it has to be totally whatever the word is exclusive to one another. They're working at the same time, and so and of course I know I gotta solve black on black crime. You got to
Mhm.
get better in Chicago, of course. But I'll be damned if the police gonna add to it. Come on, golly. So we're gonna bring awareness to that. Because how can you fix yourself? How can you fix your own damn house if somebody out out there tearing it down on the outside? So that's the thing. And also it's just quite purposefully, and it's a slap in the face. Some of these laws, some of these ways, and that's the thing. So, but I get what you're saying. The essence of what you're saying, I get, but I also want you to know that there's definitely a legitimacy, and when black folks, I don't think they're trying to guilt you. They may be making you aware, and they're not complaining. They're just making you aware, like it's more so. Because I
Yeah,
I ain't about to cry over nothing. I still got to go up and go to work.
yeah.
Still got to raise my baby girl. I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah. See that stuff I already know. Like that's the stuff that I'm into. Like I know the way, the puppeteer and the division and all that stuff. And some of these quotes by some of these, puppet shadow government people, like throughout the years in the history, they're just disgusting. And they openly say that they are causing black and white division, and they're using it to benefit themselves, because when we're distracted, we're fighting amongst each other while they're passing all these laws and taking our freedoms. So I already knew that there was racism and all that. But I've always just, it's been a great chat and learning things and
But you're not the only one. I want to say you're not the only one that thinks that way. Like there's several people within our own community that say, you know what, the hell with them. We got to overcome ourselves. Like that's a thing. Like that. And so you're not telling, it's not a new idea, right? So it's something that definitely registers deeply in a lot of conservative ways. Are definitely progressed our lifestyles through legislations, through it slowly but surely, more so than necessarily the radical ways. You know what I'm saying, that Malcolm X might suggest, or a Black Panther Party might suggest. So it's working in different areas. You got to attack it from all angles, and definitely us coming together as people is one thing, but we still have to some degree have to have a keen understanding of each other, right? And so that's what I think we're searching for here, making sure we have a keen understanding of each other's situation. And so when we do move forward, there won't be no angst. You know what I'm saying? And that's just in order for us to come together, to move forward, we got to some degree understand each other, right?
Yeah. Perfect. Well said.
Well, this has definitely been a good chat.
I love y'all. It's like sitting down there and talking crap.
We're at the 1 hour 16 mark, so that's not too bad. So yeah, so
hey girl, get ready. Sweet Willie coming over there in a minute. You sit your ass down.
See, I always have a glass of wine after the show, but I had to I got my little thing over here. I can fill it up. So, Chill. I want about Sweet Willie. He's what? Like I say, he's 2 feet tall, or he's 2 inches tall.
You married. Don't be asking them questions. I'll give you in trouble.
Hey, just because I'm married don't mean I can. I can't. I can't.
Get me in trouble. Get me in trouble. That's Sweet Willie. Oh, that's Sweet Willie. What you going? That's Sweet Willie on the phone with. Hold on, brother. No.